There is no denying India's rightful place in the United Nations Security Council. This bold declaration has been made by the US ambassador to the United Nations. So will India finally have a seat at the UNSC high table under Prime Minister Modi's leadership? Now, this statement is a slap on the face of motivated critics of Bharat and a bold backing of India's wielding greater power on the global stage. US Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield declares, quote, "We have strongly expressed our support for India, Germany and Japan. Their inclusion on the Council is essential. There is no justifiable grounds for denying India's place given its global importance," unquote. The big five of the UNSC comprise of USA, Russia, China, France and the UK, but India has long been advocating for change in this decades-old select club to truly reflect the 21st century global order. The rise of India's global stature due to the independent nature of its strategic foreign policy has also led to an expansion of its diplomatic footprint. In an increasingly divided world, Prime Minister Modi's diplomacy has seen New Delhi sharing a tight relationship with both Moscow, referring it to its steadfast friend, simultaneously having a robust and an increasingly military alliance with the West, led by the United States. Not many nations in the world, including China, can say the same. US Ambassador to the United Nations said, "We are not stepping away from our public positions. We fully support permanent seats for India, Japan and Germany, and we also believe Latin America and the Caribbean should have a permanent representation," unquote. Speaking at a talk hosted by the Council on Foreign Relations, the US Ambassador reiterated America's long-standing support for the G4 nations, India, Japan and Germany, to gain permanent seats. However, the US has not endorsed Brazil to the UNSC. Furthermore, she reiterated US's long-standing support for India's candidacy by saying that the country has the largest population in the world who must have a say in decisions of global importance. The G4 nations, which comprise of Brazil, Germany, India and Japan, are the four countries which support each other's bids for permanent seats on the Security Council. The new G4 model proposal that the Security Council membership increases from the current 15 to 25-26 by adding 6 permanent members and 4 or 5 non-permanent members. India is adamant that it should have a permanent seat and it is not in a mood to compromise this time. India believes that the current composition of only 5 permanent members and only 10 non-permanent members does not represent the contemporary geopolitical realities of the 21st century. India has been at the forefront of calling for UN reforms as it considers itself a deserving nation. It is the 5th largest economy and has the world's 2nd biggest standing army. Growing calls for India's permanent membership in the world body come just days before the Summit of the Future summit being held at the United Nations headquarters on September 22nd-23rd, for which Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting New York. In the past, even Russia, France and the United Kingdom have backed India's inclusion in the UNSC. As India pushes to get a seat at the high table, the only hurdle in its way is China, the only Asian nation in the UNSC, as it continues to veto India's entry in the bloc. China wishes to remain the sole Asian giant to represent the continent and does not want to share the privilege and the stature that comes with it. India-China relations have soured over the last decade as India versus China tensions at the LAC border in eastern Ladakh continue to simmer. India and China are also competing to be the voice of the global south and the developing world. However, the backing of the United States for India's UNSC permanent membership showcases growing support and recognition of India's rise, which China will not be able to contain for long. Sooner or later, India will have a seat at the UN high table. Now, in an instance of strengthening of defense ties between India and the United States, US President Joe Biden will be hosting the 4th in-person Quad Leaders Summit and has invited Prime Minister Modi along with other state premiers. The White House press secretary said in a statement, quote, "The Quad Leaders Summit will focus on bolstering strategic convergence among our countries, advancing our shared vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific region, and delivering concrete benefits for partners in Indo-Pacific in key areas," unquote. USA continues to be among the biggest backers of India's economic and military rise as a counter to growing Chinese expansionist threat that challenges the very existence of the rules-based international order. The big question, however, remains, despite all these statements, just how long will it actually take for India to get a seat at the UNSC? Leave a comment with your opinion, hit the like button and subscribe to Inconnect News.